You still talk about it as, quote, burning embers. But I want to put up a chart that shows where we are with the illness over the last 4 months. As you can see, we hit a peak here in April, 36,000 cases.
It's cases.
A day.
Yeah, cases.
Then it went down, and now since June, it has gone up, more than doubled.
Chris, that's because we have great testing, because we have the best testing in the world. If we didn't test, you wouldn't be able to show that chart. If we tested half as much, those numbers would be down.
But this isn't burning embers, sir. This is a forest fire.
We put out the flames. We also have burning embers. We have embers, and we do have flames. But when you talk about mortality rates, I think it's the opposite. I think we have one of the lowest mortality rates in the world.
We're going to take a look. We had 900
We will take a look.
This week.
Ready?
You can check it out.
Could you please get me the mortality rate?
Yeah.
I heard we had one of the lowest, maybe the lowest mortality rate anywhere in the world. You have the numbers, please? Because I heard we had the best mortality rate. Number one low mortality rate. I hope you show this in here because it shows what fake news is all about. Okay,
I don't think I'm fake news, but we'll put
we'll
put our stats on.
You said we had the worst mortality rate in the world, and we have the best.
All right, it's a little complicated. Hospitals at capacity in a number of places around the country. Shortages of testing, shortages of personal protective equipment for nurses and doctors. A lot of people say this is because we don't have a national plan. Do you take responsibility for that?
Look, I take responsibility always for everything because it's ultimately my job too. I have to get everybody in line.
I'm going to do you a favor because I'm sure a lot of people listening right now are going to say, Trump, he tries to play it down. He tries to make it not seem as serious as it is.
No, this is very serious.
This is one of the sharpest criticisms of you.
I agree.
People say that you talk about the world as you'd like to see it rather than follow the signs.
No,
Well, let me just ask the question, sir. Why on earth would your administration be involved in a campaign at this point to discredit Dr. Fauci, who is the nation's top infectious disease expert?
Because we're not. If one man from my administration doesn't like him because he made a few mistakes.
You made mistakes too.
I guess everybody makes mistakes.
I was going to say.
I'll be right eventually. I will be right eventually. You know, I said it's going to disappear. I'll say it again.
But
it's going to disappear.
Does that discredit
and I'll be right. I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think so. You know why it doesn't discredit? Because I've been right probably more than anybody else.
Hot enough for your hair, Mr. President?
It's hot. It's about, sort of almost record-breaking
You know,
stuff.
We wanted to do it inside. This was your choice.
But I wanted you to sweat a little bit.
Well, we both are. Liberal Democrats have been running cities in this country for decades.
Poorly.
Why is it so bad right now?
They've run them poorly. It was always bad, but now it's gotten totally out of control. And it's really because they want to defund the police. And Biden wants to defund the police.
Sir, he does not.
I will get that one, just like I was right on the mortality rate. Did you read the charter that he agreed to?
It says nothing about defunding the police.
Oh, really? It says abolish. It says let's go.
All right.
Get me the charter, please.
All right.
Chris, you've got to start studying for these.
He says defund the police.
He says defund the police. They talk about abolishing the police. They talk about illegal aliens pouring.
I look forward to seeing that.
So let's see what this says here. Prosecution, sanctuary cities, incentivize illegal alien, expand asylum, abolish immigration detention. No,
that's not.
Well, no, we'll find it.
Okay.
This thing is many pages long. End prosecution of illegal border crossers. And you know, the whole thing with cancel culture, we can't cancel our whole history.
But let me ask you this when it gets to be more than just cancel. Well, maybe this is cancel culture. The National Defense Authorization Act, you have threatened to veto it because in the bill, it would rename Army bases named for Confederate generals. Now, this is a bill that funds military operations. It gives soldiers a pay raise. Yeah. You're going to veto that?
Because they'll get their pay raise. Hey, look, don't tell me this. I got soldiers the biggest pay raises in the history of our military. I got soldiers brand new equipment, brand new jets, brand new rockets, I did more for the military than any president that's ever had this office.
You're going to veto this?
Because I think that Fort Bragg, Fort Robert E. Lee, all of these forts that have been named that way for a long time, decades and decades.
But the military says they're for this.
Excuse me. I don't care what the military says. I'm supposed to make the decision. We won 2 world wars. Nobody even knows General Bragg. Go to that community where Fort Bragg is in a great state. I love that state. Go to the community. Say, how do you like the idea of renaming Fort Bragg. And then what are we going to name it? You're going to name it after the Reverend Al Sharpton? What are you going to name it, Chris? Tell me what you're going to name it. We won 2 world wars, beautiful world wars that were vicious and horrible. We won out of all of these forts that now they want to throw those names away. And no, I'm against that. And you know what? Most other people are. No, I'm not going to go changing them.
So you'll veto
them. I might. Yeah, I might.
At Mount Rushmore on July 3rd, you said that we face a far-left fascism in this country. And then you said this.
Our children are taught in school to hate their own country and to believe that the men and women who built it were not heroes, but that were villains.
Our children are taught in school to hate our country. Where do you see that?
I just look at school. I watch, I read, look at the stuff. Now they want to change. 1492, Columbus discovered America. You know, we grew up, you grew up, we all did. That's what we learned. Now they want to make it the 1619 Project. Where did that come from? What does it represent? I don't even know.
It's slavery.
That's what they're saying, but they don't even know. They just want to make a change. Cancel culture. I hate the term, actually, but I use it.
But are they teaching
cancel
people
culture
to hate America?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Look at the professors. Look at what's going on in the colleges. If a conservative goes on a college, excuse me, I think to the best of my knowledge, we're sitting at the White House, and the Oval Office is right behind me. We have as many as them.
Who's them?
The liberal, radical left. And I'm not talking all. I think liberal. I could tell you I like a lot of liberal people. I like a lot of liberal governors and senators. But Chris, we have a radical left destructive ideology, and it's being taught in our schools. And don't act like you're surprised to hear this. There are books written about it. And we can't let that go on. Not on my watch. It's not going to happen on my watch.
Mr. President, you'll be happy to know that Fox News has a new poll out today, and you're going to be the very first person to hear about it. In the national horse race, Joe Biden leads you by 49% to 41%. We still have more than 100 days to this election, but at this point, you're losing.
First of all, I'm not losing, because those are fake polls. They were fake in 2016, and now they're even more fake. And I don't believe that first of all, the Fox polls, whoever does your Fox polls, they're among the worst. They got it all wrong in 2016. They've been wrong on every poll I've ever seen.
I must tell you.
No, I'm just telling you.
I know, which is why I was surprised by this number.
Biden can't put 2 sentences together. They wheel him out. He goes up. He repeats. They ask him questions. He reads a teleprompter, and then he goes back into his basement. You tell me the American people want to have that in an age where we're in trouble with other nations that are looking to do numbers on us.
So let me ask you a direct question. No, I'm going to ask you a direct question about Joe Biden. Is Joe Biden senile?
I don't want to say that. I say he's not competent to be president. You have to be sharp and tough and so many other things. He doesn't even come out of his basement. They think, oh, this is a great campaign. So he goes in. I'll then make a speech. It'll be a great speech. And some young guys start writing, Vice President Biden said this. He didn't say it. Joe doesn't know he's alive, okay? Tell you what, let's take a test. Let's take a test right now. Let's go down. Joe and I will take a test. Let him take the same test that I took, but I'll bet you couldn't even answer the last 5 questions. I'll bet you couldn't. They get very hard, the last 5 questions.
Well, one of them was count back from 100 by 7.
And let me tell you, you couldn't answer.
All right, what's the question?
Many of the questions. I'd get you the test. I'd like to give it. But I guarantee you that Joe Biden could not answer those questions. Okay? And I answered all 35 questions correctly. If Joe Biden got in, first of all, he won't call the shots. The people, the radical left people that surround him will call.
Your niece, Mary Trump, has written a book about you and your family. And one of her main points is that she says your dad, Fred Trump Sr., damaged the whole family. Here's what she says about what you learned from your father.
He learned to become the killer you mentioned, the man who needs to succeed at all costs, who will do anything to get attention, financial rewards, and to win.
Do you see any truth in that?
My father liked to win. Father was a very good man. He was a strong man. It's disgraceful that she said that. She was not exactly a family favorite. We didn't have a lot of respect or like for her. I would have never said that, except she writes a book that's so stupid and so vicious, and it's a lie. My father was a great, wonderful man.
Let me just ask you this question.
This is not a person that I spent very much time with, very little time. And now I'm glad.
You've developed a pretty thick skin over the years, from decades of attacks in New York tabloids, now from the press here. Yeah. And your political opponents here in Washington. But even for Donald Trump, does it hurt you at all to be attacked in such personal terms by a member of your own family?
It hurts me more about attacking my father and not being kind to my mother. I have a mother who was like a saint. She was incredible. She was an incredible woman. And she was nasty even to my mother. She's a very scarred person. She was not much of a family person. But look, let me just tell you, my father I think he was the most solid person I've ever met. And he was a very good person. He was a very, very good person. He was strong, but he was good. For her to say the kind of things, a psychopath, that he was a psychopath, anybody that knew Fred Trump would call him a psychopath. And you know what? If he was, I would tell you. And I would say, Chris, I was with my father and it was impossible. My father he was tough. He was tough on me. He was tough on all of the kids, but tough in a solid sense, in a really good sense. For her to say, I think the word she used was psychopath, what a disgrace. She ought to be ashamed of herself. That book is a lie.
Some people were surprised when you agreed to this interview, to sit down with me.
What are you going to ask?
Especially because of some of the mean tweets that you've said about me. Mike Wallace wannabe, nasty and obnoxious. I will tell you, after that one, my son Peter, whom you've met, called and he said, nasty, no, obnoxious, maybe. One of your beefs seems to be that I put Democrats on the show and I ask them questions. And I guess the question I have is, don't you understand it's my job to put Democrats on as well as Republicans and to ask them probing questions just like I ask Republicans?
I'm not a big fan of Fox, I'll be honest with you. They've changed a lot since Roger Ailes. And I watch people like Swalwell, who I don't even know. He goes on the show. He got less than 1%. All of a sudden, he's on being interviewed for endless.
Yeah, but I interviewed Nancy. Wait, I interviewed Nancy.
Nastiest people.
I interviewed. You sent one tweet after I interviewed Nancy Pelosi. And in the interview, I asked her specifically about the fact in February you were in Chinatown pitching tourism while the virus was spreading. If the president underplayed the threat in the early days, Speaker Pelosi, didn't you as well? Isn't that legitimate to talk to the Speaker of the House?
Look, I know you very well. I respect you a lot. I respect your father a lot. I thought he was one of the most talented journalists there are. And you likewise are a very talented person. I do think this. I think you are toward the Democrat side, which is okay. I mean, it's okay.
It's not true. Watch the James Comey interview I did in December. You were the director of the FBI while a lot of this was going on, sir.
Sure. I'm responsible for that. That's why I'm telling you, I was wrong. I was overconfident as director in our procedures.
You couldn't do as tough an interview with Comey. Okay. I'd like to think I treat everybody the same.
It just seems to me that you are very prone to be nice to the Democrats, and maybe I'm wrong about that, Chris, but it's an honor to be with you. It's fine. I love it. I love it that it's close to 100 degrees out there.
Your choice again.
Yeah, I know. That's okay.
I'm not saying you're going to lose. I am not saying that. We saw how you turned it around last time.
I don't think I'm going to lose at all.
But if you did, how crushing would it be to
First of all, let me just tell you something. I know everyone wants to know that because they'd love to see me lose finally.
I am not saying that at all.
You know how many times I've been written off? Do you know how many times I've been written off?
I've done some of it myself,
My
sir.
whole
I'm not
life.
doing it this time.
Don't do it because...
But how crushing would it be?
And you know why I won't lose? Because the country, in the end, they're not going to have a man who's shot. He's shot. He's mentally shot. Let him come out of his basement, go around. I'll make 4 or 5 speeches a day. I'll be interviewed by you. I'll be interviewed by the worst killers that hate my guts. They hate my guts. There's nothing they can ask me that I won't give them a proper answer to. Some people will like it. Some people won't like it.
I agree with that.
But look,
you answer the questions.
Let Biden sit through an interview like this. He'll be on the ground crying for mommy. He'll say, Mommy, please take me home.
But we've asked him for an interview, sir.
He can't do an interview. He's incompetent. There's a number you don't mention. It's called the enthusiasm number. The enthusiasm for Trump is through the roof.
I have mentioned it.
Even higher than last time. The enthusiasm for Biden is non-existent. Everyone knows he's shot.
But the enthusiasm against you
that's okay. That's his only shot. I mean, that's his only shot. I agree. And those people know I'm doing a good job. But there's something in my personality that they don't like. Because look, nobody's done what I've done. Biden wants to come in and ruin our country. Triple your taxes. He wants to do things. He wants to add regulations that I've all cut. And we still have regulation, a lot of regulation, but I've cut it down to a level that nobody ever thought possible. He will destroy this country. But it won't be him. It will be the radical left.
In general, not talking about November. Are you a good loser?
I'm not a good loser. I don't like to lose. I don't lose too often. I don't like to lose.
But are you gracious?
You don't know until you see. It depends.
Whether it's in 2021 or 2025, how will you regard your years as President of the United States?
I think I was very unfairly treated. From before I even won, I was under investigation by a bunch of thieves, crooks. It was an illegal investigation.
But what about the the good part, sir?
No. Here's the bottom line. I've been very unfairly treated. And I don't say that as paranoid. Everybody says it. It's going to be interesting to see what happens.